So you're running for Congress, and you're running out of
Mhm.
Indiana, and you're running as a Democrat. So before we get too much into the conversation, like tell me a little bit about why you decided to run in the first place.
I'd say that probably watching ICE go into communities, terrorize communities, seeing like our government kind of target its own citizens is one of the main reasons. And that's just one. Like after I got on the campaign trail, after I started to go around to different places and see what's important to people, I started building a lot of other things into the campaign. Data centers are coming to this community. Well, every community in Indiana is kind of a target for data centers. So that's a really important thing. We have so many communities in Indiana that don't allow like any renewable energy at all, for
Mm.
instance. But data centers are okay for for the vast majority of communities. But now slowly some counties are getting moratoriums on data centers. They consume so much water. They absorb they use up so much electricity, and they kind of seem to take away from communities more than they give to them. So one thing I would want to do as a congressman is to regulate data centers and make them work for the communities that they're in, or perhaps establish a comprehensive national water plan that makes it so that corporations like data centers can't just come in and take unlimited water and essentially sleepwalk us into a water crisis, because Indiana has a lot of water right
Mhm.
now, but it's something that if we let all these data centers come in and take millions of gallons of water per day, we will have a water crisis. So
Mhm.
women's bodily autonomy, there's just so many things. I mean, it all kind of comes down to we don't really have representation that really works for the people that live in the district. We have representation that's really kind of guided by their mega donors and lobbyists, and not just everyday folks that get up and put their shoes on and go to work. You know what I mean?
Right. So let's take it from the top, I guess. So you talked about ICE, and let's talk about that right now because the thing about that is I was watching a documentary on Nazi Germany and Hitler's regime, right? You could have your own opinions on Hitler, right? But there are very many parallels between what ICE is doing and what the Nazis were doing. And the thing about that is that if you're the one supporting a certain regime or a certain party, you don't really see yourself as doing evil acts because you never do. And that's why, as even as America, as a United States, we don't see ourselves committing any terrorist acts because as someone that
Yeah.
lives on the side that is committing certain actions, it's really hard to see yourself as doing evil deeds. And that's true from even, let's take superheroes and villains as an example.
Hmm.
You could make a good case for why the villain does what he does. And you could even write a story on why he does what he does. And that's what happened with the Joker because you start empathizing with the villain themselves. So I think that's what's happening at a mass scale. It's hard to see yourself as doing evil acts if you're the one committing evil acts because for the ultimate motive of the benefits of all, if that makes sense. So I think that's what the issue is, and that's what's happening. We need law enforcement. You can't argue against that, but the way that you
Hmm.
go about it becomes the issue.
Yeah, sure. That like their budget used to be $10 billion a year, and now all of a sudden like 80 billion was added to it. So so it's like that's a little bit inconsistent. That's not proportional. And also you have where ICE sends people is the compounds, the detention centers that they're going to
Mhm.
fit the literal definition of concentration camps. And so there's all this energy on one hand to say you're overreacting, you're looking at this wrong, you're uh, it's foolish to compare this to Nazi Germany, and it's not quite the same as Nazi Germany. But the thing is, there are some parallels that are worth teasing out and
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
actually, technically, these compounds that are holding people without due process fit the definition of concentration camps. I don't want those in this country. That those are not those don't belong here. Um, that inhumane treatment of human beings, shipping people off that are U.S. citizens, shipping people off that are um, military veterans, shipping off Native Americans. It's just gotten way out of control. It's got to be regulated. It's got to be reined in. I'm not sure that hopefully the next Congress could regulate ICE, and if not, the solution would have to be the abolishment of ICE.
And I think what they're
I
doing
think.
is, so, I made the case for treating a villain and empathizing with the villain to make them look like the hero, because essentially that's what you do. If you want to make someone look, or someone bad look good, you make a case of why he does what he does, and make people empathize with that story. So the other side
Yeah,
of it is to make you feel less empathy for someone. You need to dehumanize them and make them look less of a human, and that's also what's happening. You're having a group of
yeah,
people and making them look like less of a human, which at the end of the day, it's just a statistic that we have X amount of illegal immigrants, let's just say. So now you're not
hmm,
even referring to them as human. You're referring to them as a burden.
yeah, yeah. Well, or vermin, as a word that's been used by the president. Yeah, making certain people seem to be less than others, and we're the richest country in the world. I think we should take care of all of our citizens, and we should we can have a secure border, but we can have a much more humane immigration process, and we need completely comprehensive immigration reform to, like, when I talk about immigration, a lot of people say, well, George Bush or Bill Clinton, deported more people than Trump has. And while that can be true, it's like the way that it's done is, we're talking about, the methodology is completely different.
Mhm.
There's a humane way of having immigration, and we haven't had comprehensive immigration reform since, I think, the 1980s. And so it's very
Yeah.
difficult for people to become citizens. It's very difficult for, like, I was in the military, and if you're in the military and you are from Mexico, and you can join
Mhm.
the U.S. military from Mexico. Even if you get deployed, you are in combat and you are honorably discharged, you're still not guaranteed citizenship. So there are, like, all these barriers and all these paths that are all these barriers to all these paths to citizenship in the US, and it's on purpose. It's because a lot of the people that are in charge don't want it to be fixed. They don't want there to be paths to citizenship, but we need comprehensive immigration reform in the United States for sure.
Yeah, because I think it also comes from both sides, because at the end of the day, uh, having problems is what wins elections, because you can't run a platform on everything is great. You need to point out that everything is not great, that everything is broken, and that's what wins elections. Uh, Same
Hmm.
thing happened with Trump with "Make America Great Again." You cannot run a campaign if everything is good, and I think that's what Kamala's problem was, that she did run a campaign on everything is good and let's make it better.
Mm, yeah.
So So what happens is that there are no incentives on fixing anything, because if things are fixed, then you don't really have a platform.
Yeah. That's a sad way of looking at it, but I think that is a definitely true from a politician's lens. That can be very true.
Yeah, so we have a lot of issues as well with the homelessness crisis. We have the healthcare crisis, and another thing that you should talk about is Medicare for all, right? A single payer healthcare system.
Yes, definitely a single payer healthcare system. So many other first world countries have guaranteed healthcare access. I think that the US is ready for it. I think that it's long past time. I think that it's something that could have been done a long time ago. I think that the issue is that so many of our politicians are in the pockets of uh, entities that don't want to pay more taxes. We need tax reform in addition to immigration reform, but so many of our politicians are just quite literally bought and paid for by big money. Big money doesn't want to pay their fair share of taxes, and therefore everyday folks are going to feel the effects of it. Like my nephew had a heart defect when he was born. He had to have a heart transplant at the age of 2,
Oh.
and last summer when the big beautiful bill passed, after having Medicaid for 14 years at the time, my sister and brother-in-law got kicked off of Medicaid, and then my cousin got kicked off of Medicaid for a different health related issue. So I have a lot of family members feeling the effects of that. And then on the other hand, you look at Eli Lilly.
Mhm.
Eli Lilly is a big pharmaceutical corporation that's based in Indiana, and their CEO makes $30 million a year. So it's like, why are kids from Riley Children's Hospital getting thrown off of Medicaid and losing their disability while we have people that are making $30 million a year for profit pharmaceutical industry? Things are just completely out of balance. I think it's a real moral issue. We just need to have take care of our fellow citizens a little bit more and worry less about massive profit windfalls
Mhm.
for corporations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we just need to get rid of insurance companies because they're holding us hostage, and
Yeah.
th- I think that's one of the main reasons we don't even have this single payer healthcare system or just a better healthcare system overall, because these insurance companies profit when things just get expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and ideally to me, the way that the way that healthcare should work is that the for-profit aspect should be removed. Like there
Mhm.
should not be for-profit healthcare. There should not be for-profit insurance. And all the people that work in insurance, I believe it would be the government's responsibility to make sure that they still have a job somewhere. But the biggest casualty of a single payer healthcare system that I'm envisioning would be, okay, so there wouldn't be really a CEO that makes $30 million anymore. That would
Mhm.
be the casualty. We spend a ton on healthcare. We spend so much. We spend billions of dollars in the state of Indiana annually alone. So if we think about how to spread that money out in a different way, it's like we spend a lot of money because a lot of that money goes to big, huge, like profits.
Mhm.
So we don't need to spend all that money to pay the people that are making $30 million a year. I think we need to consider the people that have healthcare needs over the people that are making $30 million a year in profits.
Mhm. Yeah. I think another thing that we need is just government reform overall, because government works so slowly. Anything that the government does hardly ever works out, because there's a lot of incompetent people in government, and we know that the government does not operate smoothly, that everything takes forever to happen. So even trusting the
Hmm.
government to be able to successfully do healthcare, I mean, it is a big ask because I don't know how other governments around the world do things, but at least what I do know is that the American government, they're not the best capable of taking initiative in making a smooth operation out of anything.
Yeah, and I think it goes a lot back to it, like money in politics. It's kind of supposed to work like that. The people that are lo- the vast majority of people that are in office take donations from whoever. They take donations from huge corporations, and so that, yeah, they don't want immigration to be better. They don't need they're really just there to do the bidding of their donors, and so that's why our campaign is a no. We don't take corporate PAC money. We don't take money from APAC. We don't take money from any corporation that contributes to wealth inequality. And that's what we would like to see from every other candidate. We would like to see other candidates and other politicians say no to big corporations and say yes to people that can give $5 or people that can give nothing. Like the race we saw in Kentucky, Thomas Massey and Ed Gallryan or Gallryan. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but that's I'm very I'm not aligned with Thomas Massey politically, but to see $33 million or something be spent on that one Kentucky representative race,
Mhm.
and something like 5% of that money came from within that actual district. 95% of the money deciding that race comes from somewhere else. So that's
Didn't
obviously going to create dysfunction.
didn't APAC basically buy the election?
Yeah, APAC bought the election, and well, that's one entity. There was a lot of outside money. I mean, even Thomas Massey had a lot of outside money too. And then yesterday, a friend of mine showed me He was like, "Oh, hey, by the way, did..." He's like, I see that you're concerned about Thomas Massey and Ed Gallryan, but did you see that Thomas Massey posed? There was a guy that had a shirt on, and I need to look more into this because I just saw a picture of it last night,
Mhm.
and then woke up, and I today before saw you, I didn't like check it out any further. But Thomas
Mhm.
Massey, supposedly he's got a picture of him and a guy that's got a shirt that says American Reich on it. And so some of the people are like, "Oh, hey Drew, you're being critical of this race, but also, by the way, Thomas Massey did pose with a guy." So I need to look into that photo more. That's pretty troubling.
Yeah.
I didn't see Thomas Massey like try to say anything about that. So both candidates, I don't like either one of them, but to see $33 million come into one race, it's like we're just going the wrong direction. We're not going in the direction of everyday people that wake up and put their pants on and take their kids to school. That's not the people that are winning right
Oh
now.
yeah. Yeah, because what happens is that now that you have a lot of outside influences, money wins races. I mean, that's just the
Hmm.
harsh reality. If you run a campaign um, with no money, with no donors, you're going to have a hard race ahead of you, especially if you're running for Congress. Now, if you're running for the presidency, I don't know, but Bernie was able to do it. But if you're running for Congress, it just seems less people donate for to Congress races than they donate to presidential races. I'm sure about it.
Yeah, I don't really know, like, as far as how much people donate to the different races. I know that our race, like in my congressional district, way less money than 32 million. Like, we've raised maybe 14 or 15 grand,
Yeah.
and we've got to go against Jim Baird, who's, I think, maybe sitting on about 100,000. That's a guess though, but it's sad reality that, yeah, money like runs everything. So that's one thing that, when I have been campaigning, everyone's like, "Okay, how are you going to raise money? You need 300,000. You need 500,000. You need 1.2 million." And it's like, and if you don't have that money, um, I don't support you because you're not going to be competitive. So why should I even give you anything?
Mhm.
But
Yes.
at the same time, you got like that. We've seen a lot of races in the last year or so in which people that have been outspent massively have still pulled through. I'm trying to think of the name of the Texas special election. Texas, I don't know if it was state senate or state representative. The guy was outspent like 10-1 or something like that, and he
Mhm.
still won the race
Yeah.
over a Republican. So it's possible, but yeah, money runs everything. Money controls everything.
Yeah. And what do you what do you think we could do about it? Because I mean, you're fighting against institutions that have the money to fight back.
Yeah, I think the first thing that we should do, that every politician should get behind, is overturning Citizens United disastrous Supreme Court ruling of, I think, 2010, that basically allows corporations to funnel in unlimited amounts of money indirectly into candidates through PACs. And so overturning Citizens United, pledging to not take any of the said corporate money in the meantime.
Mhm.
So trying to get as many grassroots candidates elected as possible, and then yeah, we it would be great to overturn Citizens United. Since Citizens United passed, the amount of spending in elections has just gone up and up and up and up, and then you see things happen like Elon Musk, a guy that's not even a U.S. citizen, spending almost $300 million on the presidential election, and then basically securing all kinds of government contracts for himself. It's just such blatant corruption.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, some may say that there was no correlation between his government contracts and the money that he spent in the election.
Yeah, sure. And I've got a rooster 10 feet tall, as my grandpa would say.
Yeah, but it does happen, and we see it. So I mean, I like what Elon Musk is doing is great, but the thing about it is that certain things just shouldn't matter. That corruption is corruption, and if we don't put a stop to it, it's going to get worse. And especially when it comes to the presidential elections, the money that goes into those presidential elections have great impacts across the country.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, there's so many issues. There's also private prisons. That's a huge issue in itself because you have corporations and being incentivized to lock people up and to keep people incarcerated.
Yeah, and there are politicians that receive donations from these private prisons. So that should be, I would be in support of outlawing of making it illegal to receive any donations from private prisons. Um, so it's so disgusting.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know what else to say about it.
I think we should bring back mental institutions and have people
For sure.
in mental institutions because we know that prisons serve as like the biggest mental health institutions in the country.
Yeah, and our prisons, we don't do a whole lot with regard to rehabilitation. I was watching this documentary on Netflix. I think it was like World's Worst Prisons or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, like, I remember watching a segment about Germany. It was like there were this guy that it was interviewing prisoners in Germany, and they were talking very extensively about how they are going through very extensive psychological rehabilitation, and that's a huge part of being in the prison system is you go through that, and they have this real sense of awareness, like, I know that I have this problem, I know that I'm going to need to work on it continuously for the rest of our lives. And in the meantime, the US prison system is kind of just throw you in there and expect some sort of better result whenever it is that you come out.
Mhm.
But why why would someone just go to prison, experience that, and come out rehabilitated? They're
Yeah.
not going to.
No, yeah, definitely. The thing that I know is that a lot of people that are in prison should not be in prison and should be, uh, as I said, in a mental institution, because a lot of people
Hmm.
uh, are also like just victims of their own environment.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, you have I don't know if you're familiar. I think it was called the Mental Health Systems Act that former President Jimmy Carter started at the very end of his presidency, and it was like this robust mental health network throughout the United States
mhm,
that Reagan kind of dismantled, turned into block grants, and so sending the money to the states, and the states not using the money appropriately. So we had, like, for a brief moment there, we had this kind of robust mental health system, and then when you get rid of that, it's like, well, that's the cause for a lot of homelessness. That's a cause for a
mhm,
lot of crime if you don't treat these mental health issues. And of course, we don't with our current healthcare system. So I believe that mental health should be certainly baked into a
mhm.
national healthcare program. And even if you don't think that we should pay for it, then, well, it's also naturally going to prevent homelessness, and it's going to prevent crime. So if you don't like those things, then you should like the idea of a nationalized healthcare system that addresses mental health concerns.
Oh yeah. And another issue that we have is that a lot of agencies just don't spend money correctly, and there's a lot of fraud.
Yeah, yeah, Doge. The idea of Doge was cool at the beginning, but
Yeah.
they really just kind of shined a light on everything that didn't make sense to like the best opportunity for waste, fraud, and abuse would be in the Department of Defense,
Mhm.
would be in the military. Like that's the biggest where there are stories of people paying like $50,000 for an item that cost $1,000. All this, all this contracting and all these. Also the idea of, if you're in a military unit, if you don't spend all of your money, you in a year, you don't get the same amount allocated to you next year. So every unit in the military is always incentivized to spend everything that they have, and then that will ensure that they get the same amount next year, even if they don't necessarily need all the money that they spent. And so that was the biggest opportunity for Doge, and they literally just walked right past that and said, let's get rid of things that say diversity. Let's look for the keyword diversity and get rid of
Mhm.
get rid of DEI, as if that is really truly waste, fraud, and abuse, which
Mhm.
I don't believe it is.
Because we know that a lot of it is just theatrics, and a lot of it
Yeah,
does not even work, because the government, they're not in the business of making things work. They're just in the business of keeping things broken.
yeah, yeah. I agree. A lot of things are just not supposed to be fixed.
Mhm.
The people that are giving them the politicians money want them to stay the way they are, and sometimes you see parts, particularly with Republicans, uh, saying, I'm anti-government. Like I want
Mhm.
less and less government, so I want to run for government, and then I don't know, throw a wrench in the gears and make it work less. Like if you're against government, then why are you running to be a part of it?
Mhm. Yeah. Uh, like, what do you suppose that we do? Because the government is just broken. Things just don't run as they should.
Hmm. I think in addition to money in politics, I think it'd be great to have more choices. Like not two, it's a two-party system, and the two-party system I believe is really detrimental. I think we should have, like in European countries, they've got five choices in their elections. So we can have five choices, but that's only really in primaries. That's when you have
Mhm.
the most choice is the primary. Like I ran against seven other people, and so I was at eight-way primary that we just emerged from a couple weeks ago, and
Mhm.
so now the general, the one that counts in November, it's me and one other person, and it's just and we're very different, and those are the
Mhm.
only two options you have. If you want to run as an independent, you have to have like thousands as a representative at the federal level. You're going to need thousands of signatures to run, whereas if you're a Republican or Democrat, you fill out a PDF fillable form online that takes a few minutes to fill
Mhm.
out at the FEC website. So we need more choices in addition to getting money out of politics.
Yeah.
Those are two things. Those That's a start at least.
Yeah. And do you think that we could run the government as a business? Because that's where it gets tricky because there's no profit incentive, or at least there shouldn't be a profit incentive. But the thing about running the government as a business is that you have a clear goal and you have like quarterly goals and you just want to be the best organization or the best function organization. And we don't see
Mhm.
that with the current government because things are just
Mhm.
run very differently. But if things were running as a business, things might change a little and there would be less fraud or less reckless spending.
Yeah. What exactly do you mean, like run as a business? You mean like holding
R-
people accountable more strictly, like for when budgets are in the red, or
Something
like when
like
we have a
that. Because,
deficit?
yeah, because if there's a deficit, you're just going to look at it and just shrug your shoulders because there's really no incentive to make a profit. So, what would be the other end of that? Just having things not go into a negative.
Hmm. Yes, and a lot of you hear a lot of people talk about whenever the congressional the the budget is is in the red, like, or when holding members of Congress really directly accountable for, like, for instance, a lockout, like when we
Mhm.
have a government lockout, saying like, okay, well, Congress shouldn't get paid. I think we could make some moves like that really hold members of Congress and members of government accountable when they make decisions that shut down the government. And so that's on one hand, that's true, but also on the other hand, I think we've kind of been plagued by this idea of we think, and I'm not talking about specifically Trump, I'm talking about all politicians. We've become obsessed with the idea of electing a businessman or a
Mhm.
businesswoman to office. And so, like, while I agree with you on treating government like a business and holding people accountable for making these poor budgetary decisions, I also think that we've been plagued with government officials that we've been sold on because they are business minded, and at the end of the day a business minded person is really concerned about profits
Mhm.
and the bottom line, and that comes at the expense of people, and we're seeing that happen at the federal level now.
Mhm.
Trump mentioned that as as he's asking for 1.5 trillion in in defense funding, he literally is saying at the same time, and I don't care about the finances of everyday Americans. We can't take care of our elderly. We can't take care of our sick. And I need a 1.5 trillion for defense spending next year.
Yeah.
So that to me is kind of like the businessman mindset, which doesn't really fit that well in government. Fiscal responsibility does,
Mhm. Yeah.
but
Yeah, like the thing about Trump is that there's two sides to it because I did hear JD Vance come out and explain what Trump said, because when Trump was asked if he thinks about the financial situations of Americans, he says no. So there's two sides to it. There's a side that Trump is just not articulate at all. He does not know how to express what he's really thinking, or
Mhm.
he really meant that he just doesn't care about the financial situations about Americans. Because like if you're having a meeting, say you're the CEO of a company and you're having a meeting with the board. I don't know if this is even a good example, but you're talking about like the profit of the current quarter and the profit of the next quarter, or like just some operational decisions that you need to make. Like, are you really thinking that some decisions that you're going to make are going to impact the employees? I think there's some correlation between him having like serious discussions with Iran on what needs to be done, and thinking about how this is going to impact Americans, when his main thought is national security. That's his main focus. So
Mhm.
JD Vance came out and tried to explain that of course he thinks about the financial situation about of Americans, but there's just so many different factors to think about, and that he's like actively thinking about. But when he's having
Mhm.
discussions with Iran, his main focus is national security. So it's not like he's ignoring the financial struggles of Americans, but it's just that his main focus is national security. And sometimes, especially when you're president, every decision that you make is going to impact somebody negatively. And if you have
Mhm.
that consume you, then it's going to be very hard to get anything done, because at the same time, being president, everything that you do, someone's not going to like you and someone's going to talk bad about you. And it's just one of the facts of the office. So if you let that
Mhm.
consume you, it's going to impact you negatively, and it's going to impact the fact that you're not going to get much done.
Yeah, I agree definitely to an extent, but I expect more out of the highest elected official in the U.S. I think he should at least be. I think he should choose his words more carefully if that's what he
Mhm.
means. If he means to say I'm really trying to take care of the U.S. citizenry, it's like he just shows a very peculiar way to say that.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's why he won, because he just says whatever comes to mind. And I don't think that's a really good quality to have as president, because like a good quality to have as president is that you need to watch your words very carefully and not just say anything that you want. And that's why when you
Hmm.
hear Obama speak, it's very refreshing.
Yeah, yeah. I think those words matter. I think that that like right now, we're like this this podcast that we're on right now is going to be on the internet. It's going to be posted forever. So I'm thinking about the things that I say when I stand in front of people, and I'm a nobody at this point.
Mhm.
I'm running for some office. I've never held office before, but I think that the standards should just be higher and higher, and w- the higher up you go, and also that's kind of a weird double-edged sword in which a lot of people are like, I really like this person because he says it like it is. But if you say it like it is in regard to that person, there's a double standard there. There's
Mhm.
like, I like this person for saying it like it is, but I don't want you to say anything bad about him at the same time. So
Mhm.
so there are a lot of inconsistencies with with that kind of I like just hearing it how it is. I don't think a lot of people really do like hearing it like that when the
Yeah.
shoe's on the other foot.
Oh yeah, and that's why as president you need to choose your words very carefully, because your words uh and we know how the media reacts to what the president says, because they take snippets and a lot of the time without even any context. and you need to watch every single word that you say and make sure that your thought comes across. Because if you just say it how it is or just what comes to mind, sometimes you're going to leave a lot of nuance there that is not going to translate into words. And sometimes you might
Mm-hmm.
say something that you don't really mean because in your head it made sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happening with Trump. I don't think when he said that he doesn't care about Americans' financial situation, that he meant that literally, as he just doesn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But he needs to choose his words more carefully, because then people are gonna take it, and people are just going to take what he says at service level. They're not really going to dig too deep into it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I sort of believe JD Vance on this one. But then, yeah, you can't have that as precedent. Just say everything off the cuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there needs to be a little bit more. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's on the president at that level of leadership to choose your words more carefully. And I could be a little bit sympathetic to maybe Trump and Vance's point. Like maybe he did mean that a little bit, but it's you're at the top level of leadership of position. You need to be more articulate, and you need to be more clear with people and let them know exactly what you mean. And
Mm.
saying it in that way, I don't care, is not a is not good messaging.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
So
I agree. And I mean, I just hope that the next president knows how to choose their words more carefully.
yeah, me too. God knows who that's going to be.
I know, but like whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, we just need someone that is more considerate overall.
Yeah, considerate, kind, sincere, bring decency back and civility, kindness, compassion. I think that's what's missing
Oh yeah.
is empathy, a lot of values that would be that are I think are missing from our government.
Yeah, and that's going to be hard because we know that, at least right now, that everyone's morality is up for sale.
Yeah, that's a strong statement, but yeah, that's a dark statement, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah, it's true.
it is like everything is for. It's like the more business minded we become, the more just everything is for sale.
Mhm.
To include people's loyalty.
Yeah. So listen,
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that your campaign goes good. I know it's been a tough campaign. I'm sure you're running against 7 people in the primary. I mean, that's a lot.
That was a huge. I'll be honest. It was not too sure about it, but yeah. So that was versus 7 people. Now it's versus one, but this actually is statistically less probable. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
yeah. Well, thank you very much. We got 5.5 months of full time campaigning.
Mhm.
I was teaching at Purdue full time, and I put in a leave of absence to campaign. So, in the event that I lose, I would be able to come back to teaching in January, but hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully we can make it past the general
Mhm.
election and represent those everyday folks that are struggling right now.
For sure. No, yeah. I mean, a lot could happen in 5 months. So who knows?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
Well, thank you for your time, man.
Thanks so much for having me, Eric. I really appreciate it. Thanks for getting up early. I can't believe I didn't know you were in Vegas. You're up at like 7 o'clock to do
Oh,
this on a
yeah.
Saturday. So
No
thank
worries. I
you.
mean, yeah, it's fine. All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Eric. I'll see you later.